B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We're back in our Sunday night, new week. Shavua Tov for everyone. We're continuing our series for the Jewish HaShkafa based on the extraordinary Sefer Emunah V'Bitachon by the Chazon Ish, Alav Shalom. Tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Rabbi Ephraim Ben Shulamit, Sarah Bat Levana, Orit Bat Ilana, Talia Bat Sarah, Yitro Ben Avraham, David Ben Esriya, Doris Bat Jora, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba for Shaul Ben Farzane, Yitro Ben Avraham, Oshri Ben Doris, Gabi Ben Doris, Elad Ben Doris, Marsha Bat Julie, Ayla Bat Marsha, Samuel Ben Marsha, Cephas Ben Marsha, Alexander Ben Marsha, Reuven Chaim Ben Pala Parel, Tova Bat Chava, Michal Bat Tova, Sivan Bat Tova, Tanya Bat Tova, and all of Am Yisrael will have Hatzlacha Rabba b'kol ma'aseh yadayim, refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, to them and to everyone that is continuing to support us, learning with us, and BeEzrat Hashem sharing all of the lectures, and Baruch Hashem allowing us to do all the wonderful things that the organization is doing. Again, a continuous update for everyone to download the BeEzrat Hashem app. We have a BeEzrat Hashem app that's Baruch Hashem very powerful, greatest way to watch the lectures. We're working hard to get the live feature launched on it very soon, BeEzrat Hashem. So those of you that have not downloaded the app, I highly recommend doing so. It's BeEzrat Hashem, BeEzrat HASHEM on the iPhone store and also the Android store for Google. Also, aside from that, for anyone that wants to get daily updates, short clips, you could send a WhatsApp message to 1917-468-2324, so you could be added to the WhatsApp group. We have, Baruch Hashem, many of them, and people always asking questions about different things, and many of these things are answered in the WhatsApp group clips that are posted every day, and also the lectures, and also the updates, and the campaigns, and all the other wonderful things that we do. So it's the greatest way to get updates on what we're doing. Lastly, for the campaign for helping the poor people in Eretz Yisrael is continuing for anyone that wants to donate to help poor Jewish people, that most of them are Talmidei Chachamim, that are learning and toiling in Torah every day. For the holiday of Shavuot, we have a campaign on bhdonate.org. B as in boy, H as in HaShem, and the word donate.org. You could donate over there. And also the campaign for the movie, to publicize the movie. Baruch Hashem, it's getting to many, many people right now. Anyone that wants to publicize some of these cards, in his community, in her community, wants to take a few hundred of them and give them out in their community, is welcome to do so. You can either purchase them in the store on the website, beezrathashem.org, or if you don't have any money, you could just simply send me a message at the same WhatsApp number that I just gave you, with your name and address and email, and we'll mail you a few hundred of them to give out in your community. We also have the car bumpers, or the car magnets, for anyone that wants to make his car a mitzvah vehicle. I think it's an extraordinary idea. You put this magnet on your car, and anyone that's going to pass by you and while you're parked or anywhere else can see this QR code on there, perhaps get curious enough to see why you have this QR code on there and what's this Hashem Took Back His Millions movie or Tikkun BEIT. Scan it, and the next thing you know, you have a Baal Tshuva, or an entire family, or 5 families, or 10 families that have done Tshuva just for simply putting a magnet on your car. I think it's a brilliant idea to put on your car. I have it on my car, and I recommend for everyone to do the same thing with theirs. We also have one that can go on the window, the back window, that you can get. Again, you could either buy them from the store, or if you don't have any money, then you could just simply send me a message and I'll send you one for free. Either way, we need to get the word out there to help as many people as possible do tshuva, especially for the Ilui Nishmat of these 45 tzaddikim, that left the world, that were uprooted from the world. Just in the last week, we've already committed to giving out over 100,000 of these flyers and other things for free. So please take advantage of it and give them out in your community. But don't just, get it and don't give it out. Please give them out. They cost a lot of money, and we obviously want the money to be well spent. So if you think that you can handle it, please do. Let us know. We'll send them out to you. If you have the money, you could donate. If you don't have the money, we'll send them to you. If you have the money, but you don't feel like giving them out, or you don't have time to give them out, then simply donate. And we'll have, we'll pay for this whole campaign through your money. In essence, you're getting the same thing. Everyone can get involved. Everyone needs to get involved. Every one of us has to prepare for Matan Torah that's coming up in a week from today. We're receiving the Torah again. As the Ramchal says, that each and every year, the gates of heaven are reopened like they did at the time of Mount Sinai. And each and every single one of us has to be ready at that time. Many people think that the main part of the holiday is is going to be on Sunday, but that's incorrect. The main part of the holiday is the preparation of the holiday. Hence the reason why, unlike Pesach, which is called Pesach because that's the day of the holiday itself, or Sukkot, that's the day of the holiday itself, or Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah, all of these other holidays that we have in Judaism are called for the holiday itself, but Shavuot is called after the preparation, meaning Shavuot means weeks, the 7 weeks of preparation for the acceptance of the Torah itself. Each one of us has to get prepared. Get prepared for this holiday. We should have already been prepared over the last 6 weeks, but anyone that hasn't gotten the message or hasn't understood what the point of Shavuot is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sounded the horn very loudly, as Rav Biderman said in a lecture just last night that he did with Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, that the sound of the horn was loud and clear for every single Jewish neshama in the world, that it's time to get prepared for Matan Torah, and not get prepared with cheesecakes and what you're going to eat and where you're going to sleep and all of those things, but rather accept something additional on yourself. Whatever you're doing, accept something more. If you are studying a half hour a day, start studying more. An hour a day, 2 hours a day. If you're giving, $100 tzedakah, then give 200. If you're, saying lashon hara constantly, then learn how to shut your mouth. If you're a stingy person, learn to be generous, and so on and so forth. Each one of us has to take something on ourselves, and if it's not for yourself, at the very least do it for the sake of the 45 tzaddikim that were uprooted from the world, that I don't think there was a single Jewish neshama that didn't cry about it, and even many non-Jews cried over this situation. And those that did not cry have to ask them, and do some investigation whether their neshama is really Jewish. Like this Rasha journalist in Israel named Yaron London, that to him it was no different whether it was 45 tzaddikim that died or 45 random people from Indonesia or China to him. He says there's no difference. He doesn't feel like he's part of the same nation, and he's right. He's probably, if you look at his background, he's not Jewish. But unfortunately, there are some people that are halachically Jewish as far as their mother was Jewish, or sometimes they converted to Judaism, but are so far removed from Judaism that they've literally uprooted their own neshama, self-destructed their own neshama from the Torah, from holiness, and feel no remorse to Jewish people, no connection to Jewish people. In fact, many of them have hatred towards the Torah, and this is many times starts because of the uncontrolled desires, and that's part of the thing that the Chazon Ish has been discussing, of how one of the most important missions of a Jew in their life is to learn enough about the halacha, about the laws of Judaism, to love the halacha, to love the law, love the judgment itself. And many times you will hear people distort the judgment, distort the law, And you'll see that the reason for it is always the same, which is because they have not toiled in halacha, toiled in the actual law itself, so they don't know it, or because they have not fallen in love with it to the extent where they can remove their emotions from the actual equation, where their emotions became their God, and they're deciding what the law is based on what feels good. And that, unfortunately, is no different than Christianity and a lot of other heretical beliefs out there in the world. Now, in the weekly Parashat Bechukotai last week, we had Parashat Bechukotai right after Parashat Behar, both double Parasha week. In Parashat Behar, HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught us the laws pertaining to money, where, if a person is going to use their emotions, he's not going to agree with any of the laws that were told to us in the parasha, which is when he sees a fellow Jew having struggling financially, he has to help him. Even more so if that Jew has a business, you see him struggling, you have to go help him, give him a interest-free loan. And because it's your responsibility that all of Am Yisrael is doing okay. If you are wealthy and you have fellow Jews that are in your vicinity that are poor, and you're ignorant of that, you're completely oblivious of that, and you care less about it altogether, you will get judged for that. You will get judged for it. This is why it's not necessarily the number one wish of holy people to become rich. Many holy people actually wished not to be rich because it's a very, very big responsibility to be wealthy financially. But when a person has a lot of money and at the same time he has a lot of fellow Jews around him that are struggling, that can't make ends meet, and he cares less about it, that's a very, very difficult judgment that person's going to get. But nonetheless, the Torah tells us that if you see a fellow Jew struggling, you have to help him. If you ignore that, he gets himself into further trouble to the point where he becomes a slave to a non-Jew. You are now responsible to go help that person. You're responsible to go help that person and free him from that slavery. But many times people say, okay, you know what? I'll help a fellow Jew, but I'm going to lend him money and I'm going to charge him interest. This is the reason why the Torah tells us specifically in the same Parashat Behar that you're not allowed to charge a Jew interest. You're not allowed to charge a Jew interest. Now, the Rav Ovadia says that since the psak on a Jew that violates Shabbat, according to the Rambam, Ilchot Shabbat, chapter 30, last halacha, and also the Shulchan Aruch in at least a half a dozen places, and many of the other poskim say that a Jew that desecrates Shabbat on purpose is considered a idol worshiper. And even Rav Moshe Feinstein that discussed this issue in regards to Mechalel Shabbat, many people misinterpret what Rav Moshe Feinstein said to say that as if Rav Moshe Feinstein, said that everyone that's a Mechalel Shabbat is a Tinok Shenishba, is a captured baby. You could just, include them in giving them aliyot and treat them like every other fellow Jew. This is a complete distortion of what Rav Moshe Feinstein said. He only said that you can include them in certain ceremonies, but nonetheless, he specifically and literally writes, they are still not considered part of Klal Israel, as far as in regards to using them as a witness for a wedding or for any type of judicial ceremony. They still have no share of the world to come. But nonetheless, you don't have to kick them out or mistreat them in any way. You have to bring them closer. But unfortunately, many people's emotions get touched by this specific halacha about a person, a Jew that desecrates Shabbat, being considered an idol worshiper. So what do? They just, disregard the law and put whatever they want on there, and sometimes they'll put a rabbi's name on there too because they read one or two lines of what the rabbi said, but not the entire book of what he said. Point being is that since a Mechalel Shabbat is considered an idol worshiper, according to halacha, you're allowed to lend him money and charge him interest. You're allowed to. It's not recommended to do so, because what if he does tshuva? Then you have yourself a pretty serious problem. But nonetheless, there is no permission to ripping people off. not ripping people off that are Jewish and not ripping people off that are not Jewish. Even if the non-Jew is an idol worshiper, you're never allowed to do what these guys do and these girls do at these cash advance businesses that are charging them 40, 70, 100, 400% interest and things of that nature. That's never allowed. That's 100% stealing. But nonetheless, a person needs to know that if you're going to help somebody only because of business, only because you're profitable, that means that you are in a very, very bad spiritual state. You're a very bad spiritual state because the Torah obligates us to help each other without profit, without considering profit. And even to deal with the non-Jews, you have to do it with reasonable profit, not to rip people off and practically destroy their lives. Now, if a person disregards this whole issue of being honest in business and helping each other and so on, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the following parasha. What parasha? Parashat Bechukotai. And the Parashat Bechukotai starts off by simply telling us, if you're going to listen to my laws, you observe my commandments, you do all of them, then I'm going to give you more parnasah. Yeah, how are you going to give me more parnasah if I'm lending money for free? Don't worry. Kadosh Baruch Hu knows how to give you money even without the traditional ways. I'll give you money, I'll give you this, all your enemies will run away from you, and so on and so forth. But if you don't listen, you disregard my laws because it doesn't fit your balance sheet, it doesn't fit your accountant's recommendation, it doesn't fit your stockbroker and financial advisor's plan. You want to make a profit on your fellow Jews. You want to ignore helping the poor. You want to completely disassociate yourself from your fellow Jews as if you're not a Jew. But nonetheless, you act like a Jew because you have a kippah on sometimes, you have a beard perhaps, but if it comes to helping people, no, not so much. Then Parashat Bechukotai comes in and he says, here are all of the punishments. And then you have yourself over 40 different verses of horrific punishments that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises to those people that don't listen to his laws. And each one of the punishments is worse than the other. With, in my opinion, you're looking at one after another, different types of sicknesses that the world has heard about and the world has never heard about. Sicknesses that, there's no cure to. And if that's not enough, and we continue treating Hashem with casualness as if nothing is a big deal, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings even more punishments and more punishments to the point where he takes away all the money, he makes everybody poor, and he creates famine, which has happened to Am Yisrael, unfortunately, many times throughout history. It's listed in the Tanakh quite a few times, many stories of the starvation of Am Yisrael before the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, after the destruction of Bet HaMikdash, during the destruction of Bet HaMikdash, during the Holocaust, and even as recent as today is Jerusalem Day. This was a famine in Jerusalem many years ago, when all of these Arabs, Yimach Shimam v'Zichram, that were trying to kill Am Yisrael and conquer Jerusalem, they were fighting, trying to break into Jerusalem. They had to close off the city. And what ended up happening is that there was no food coming in and out of the city, and many people were starving. So, starvation is not so far away, Rabotai. Starvation is not so far away, but the people that get hurt from them are usually the people that were stingy during their life. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a rule. And the Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, Alav Shalom, says that there is a very, very critical rule in creation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu implements. And that rule is, all punishments, all difficulties that come to a person's life will always be measure for measure. Meaning, if you see that you have a pain in your eye, a pain in your head, a pain in your pocket, a pain in your heart, and any type of pain whatsoever that you have, and you want this pain to stop, most important thing you need to know is this rule. Why? Because this rule can save you years of agony, years of pain, and even your life. And what is this rule? HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not give punishment that's not measure for measure. Meaning, if you have a pain in your eye, a pain in your pocket, a pain in your heart, a pain anywhere, that is because you made a sin with that body part, with that thing that you're being punished with. If you just lost a bunch of money, that's because you did something wrong when it comes to money. Whether it's yesterday, or a month ago, or a year ago, or 5 years ago, whenever that time is, only you know that, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that. But nonetheless, if you just lost a bunch of money, that could be because you made a lot of empty promises and you didn't deliver on them. It could be because you stole from people. It could be because you wasted seed, and wasting seed is dispersing the shefa, the sustenance that Hashem gives you. All types of things. If you have a heartache, somebody just broke your heart. Could be, if you review, maybe you made fun of somebody that wanted to be a shidduch for you. Maybe you broke up somebody else's shidduch. Maybe you ended up causing somebody else agony. You have an eye ache, maybe you're not watching your eyes. Maybe you're looking at things that are inappropriate on the internet or in the streets. Maybe you're doing things like that. If you have toothache, perhaps you should, watch your mouth. Be careful what you eat. Maybe you're not eating kosher. Maybe you're not speaking kosher, and so on and so forth. Every time you have any type of agony, you have to check that body part, check that thing. Why? Because that's the whole point. If it wasn't for this particular principle in the creation itself, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin says there would be no point to hurting people. There'd be no point. All pain would simply be for no reason. It would create, how would a person do tshuva if he doesn't know what to do tshuva for? But the hint that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us, he talks to us in his actions. You have a pain somewhere, you lost somewhere, check that part. Check it and check it. And you say, I didn't find. I checked, I didn't find. I was kosher in this, I was kosher in this, I was kosher in this. Then that means you have to go to the Gemara. Masechet Brachot. Masechet Brachot says, a person that sees isurin, sees suffering in his life, has to, yefashvesh b'ma'asav, check his actions. I did check, Rabbi, and I didn't find. So the Gemara says, he checked and he didn't find, he should look at it as if it's bitul Torah. Bitul Torah, meaning he wasted his time and didn't learn Torah. She wasted her time and didn't learn Torah. She says, no, but I watch a shiur all the time. No, that's not what it means. Comes the Gaon Mivilna and says, no, it doesn't mean that you didn't learn, that you wasted your time with Torah. It means you didn't learn enough about what you need to learn to know enough about what you're doing wrong. Meaning, whatever you're learning is simply not enough altogether, because you obviously don't even know that what you're doing is wrong. You're still thinking that you should judge the law based on your emotions. And unfortunately, Rabotai, this is because many times people like a certain type of drasha, a lecture, or a certain type of a book, a certain type of teaching, and they want to learn everything about Emunah. You ask them about what is the halachot of tarat mishpacha, of family purity, they don't know anything. What is the halachot of Shabbat? They don't know anything. You come to their house, you see on Shabbat, they're violating Shabbat on Shabbat while saying Shabbat Shalom. Why? Because they don't know the halachot of Shabbat. She'll adjust the plata. Oh, no, it's not warm enough. Let me higher the temperature. It was already turned on before Shabbat. She thinks she can increase the temperature of the plata on Shabbat. So she's saying Shabbat Shalom, but she's cooking on Shabbat. Or worse yet, you see some people completely ignoring kashrut, ignoring all the laws of kashrut. They just eat anywhere. No, Rabbi, I don't eat meat anywhere. I just eat the salads. Yeah, but you're eating salad at a non-kosher place. It's not allowed. No, Rabbi, it's salad. There's no meat in the salad. I'm just eating the vegetables. So that's okay, right? No, it's not okay. Unless eating bugs, you can find a chidush in the Torah that says you're allowed to eat bugs. It's not okay. You're not allowed to eat non-kosher outside of the house or inside of the house. And a Jew is obligated to wash his vegetables and remove all of these bugs and so on. And when you eat at a non-Jewish place, you eat at a non-kosher place, even if it's owned by a Jew, but it's a non-kosher place, you know that person is not careful with washing their vegetables to remove all of these different bugs. And every time you're taking a bite, even if there isn't a bug in there, it's still a sin. It's still a sin. Why? Because you're taking a risk and there's no permission of taking such risks. So it's very important for a person to know these details. Even more so, a person conducts business. He thinks that he's doing good business. What is he doing? He's a doctor, and he says, listen, I know that this insurance company is not going to pay me $5,000. I know that they're not going to pay me the $5,000 because every time this insurance company has the thing, what they do, they only pay me half of what I charge. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell them that this specific procedure cost $50,000, even though it doesn't cost $50,000, it costs $5,000. But I'm going to tell them it costs $50,000. I'm going to tell them it costs $20,000. Why? Because I know they're going to shortchange me anyway, and then hopefully I'll get what I want, maybe even a little extra. You have a problem in your hands. You have a problem in your hands. Same thing with people that cheat in selling cars and things of that nature. Guy comes in, says, hey, listen, I have a problem. There's a little light in my car. It says check engine, check this. He checks the engine. He sees that really the only thing you need is a little piece of rubber, a little screw that's missing, or a wire and a fuse is wrong. But he says, listen, I got to pay rent. I got to pay bills. If I don't charge this guy, then something, I'm not going to be able to pay these guys the money. And these guys have to feed their kids. So this guy looks like he's rich. He's driving a Bentley. He's driving $1 million car. Let me charge him a few thousand for checking something. And you charge him something that costs literally a penny or 2 pennies or $5 or whatever it is. Tell him, oh, you have a serious problem, sir. You have a serious problem. You're going to have to leave it here for a few hours. I'm going to check if I can fix it even. Next thing you know, the guy falls for it. He doesn't know anything about cars. He knows how to make money. The guy's $1 million car. You think he knows anything about cars? He knows how to buy cars. So he comes back a few hours later and he tells him, listen, sir, I got good news for you. I was able to get you the part. Everything is fixed. Check it out. Look. And you're happy, and the guy's happy, and he gives you $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 for what you did. That great work that cost you exactly $5. You have a problem. Why? You're a dishonest person. And the Torah says, midvar sheker tichak. From a thing of lies, run away from. Last but not least, what I've talked about many times. People love to cheat the government, whether it's the U.S. government, the British government, the Israeli government, or whatever government you have in any other country in the world. They love to cheat the government. They want to claim unemployment when they're already employed. They want to claim benefits that they do not deserve. They want to claim poverty when they're rich like Korach. And they do all types of things because they figure, listen, the government is rich. It's they should give me the money. What do I care? What, if I take an extra $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 from them, what's the big deal? They're printing billions of dollars anyway. What's the big deal if they print an extra $50,000 for me? I'm a good guy. I'm a Jew. I deserve it. Like one guy sent me today, says, listen, Rabbi, we're allowed to disregard the government's law. I said, no, absolutely not. He said, no, but if we're scholars, we're able to. I said, even more so not allowed to. Even more so not allowed to. He goes, yeah, but Rabbi, don't you know that the government, the taxes, it's stealing from us. They're stealing from us by charging us taxes. Habibi, you don't want to pay taxes to the government in the country that you live in? Move to a different country. There's a law. By living in that land, you are saying, with or without making a verbal statement, by living there, you are saying you're going to comply with the law. As long as you comply with the law, you're good to go. You violate the law, you're violating the Torah. Now you're going to say, wait, but some of these rich people from big companies, they have offshore accounts, they have all types of ways to shelter taxes and so on. If you're doing that in a legal way, according to the law allows you to have offshore accounts, allows you to have all of these different companies and so on to shelter for taxes, estate planning and things of that nature. The law allows it, therefore it's not a violation. But if you just decide on your own that because you're a Jew, you're not going to pay taxes, or you're not going to do this, or you're not going to do that, Habibi, you have a problem. Not just with the government, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why? There's no permission for you to violate the law of the land. You don't like the land? You don't like the laws? Leave. Simple. Go find a country that doesn't have laws. Go find one. Maybe in Sodom. It used to be a place like that. Sodom and Gomorrah didn't have any laws. They had some laws, but not the kind of laws that you'd want, and we're going to talk about that tonight. So, there's a reason why we have Parashat Behar and Parashat Bechukotai right after another. Why? Tells you in the beginning, nice, calm way, one of these, nice parashot, talks to you about business, do this, do that, like one of these nice lectures. Not like the ones like fire right into you within the first 30 minutes telling you about, idol worship and so on. No, the one that says, hey, Rabotai, talks to you nice, and you're like, wow, he's such a scholar. Like one of those people looks like a supermodel. Not like this guy that's just, right off the bat. It kind of reminds you of somebody. Anyway, the point is that you have, first parasha tells you like a little tiny baby warnings, like listen, you should be nice to people, Kol Yisrael aravim ze lazeh, everyone loves each other, all of Am Yisrael, whether he's this, whether he's that, he's Sephardic, Ashkenazi, Hasidish, yalla, help everybody, nice parasha, beautiful parasha. Right after it, Trach! HaShem yishmor v'yatzil. You look at the parasha, you want to start crying if you understand what it means. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, if you don't listen to what I said, He's going to give us these horrible, horrible punishments. Horrible punishments. Sheva al chovevon. The Onkelos says, 7 ways for your sins. 7, because you each sin has 7 different ways of how you sin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes a person 7-fold. He thinks he made 1 sin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes him in 7 different ways because of how detailed the sin is. How detailed the sin is. And he doesn't think that he's suffering because of the sin. He thinks it's bad luck. He thinks it's the stock market dropped. He thinks it's because it's because of that, but he doesn't think it's HaShem. So the punishment, Rabotai Yekarim, gets worse and worse, and the sword continues to chase a person, Hashem Yishmo, and plagues chase him, swords chase him, and he still doesn't get it. He still doesn't get it, and that's why in chapter 26, verse 29, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, in my opinion, the scariest part, which is you will eat the flesh of your sons and the flesh of your daughters you will eat. Meaning, starvation, poverty will get to such a point that people will eat their own children. This, unfortunately, has happened to Am Yisrael multiple times. Destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, the Holocaust, and other times. This happened. Am Yisrael has gotten to the point of ignoring the law to such an extent that they forced Hashem's hand to deliver the promise. To deliver the promise of bringing this punishment. This is also the reason, Rabotai, why in the Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim, Ilchot Anagat Adam, Baboker, Siman Hey, Seif Aleph 5.1, says, יכוון בברכות פירוש המילות. שיזכיר השם, that a person has to have kavana when he says blessings. Blessing, he has to have kavana on the name of Hashem. What kavana should he have, or should she have, when they saying Hashem's name? יכוון פירוש קריאתו באדנות שהוא אדון הכל, ויכוון בכתיבתו ביוד ה' שהיה והווה ויהיה, והזכירו אלוהים יכוון שהוא תקיף בעל היכולת ובעל הכוחות כולם. With each letter a person is really supposed to have a kavana that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was, is, will be. But when he mentions the word Elokim, he's supposed to think that he, meaning Hashem, takif, בעל היכולת ובעל הכוחות כולם. Takif. What's the takif? Attacking. The owner of all powers and all strengths in the world. Takif. Takif. Baal HaYecholet. Baal HaKochot Kulam. Every time I say Hashem's name, I have to think and even say sometimes, he's attacking? He's aggressive? Hashem? I thought Hashem, according to all of the Babas of today, the people that are pretending to be rabbis, that many times you'll see a name attached, Manis, to them, or some type of modern mentality. No, Hashem loves everybody. But you have a lucha. You have a lacha. Shulchan Aruch. It's in the Gemara. It's in the halacha. This is an obligation. You have to think, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, takif. What's takif? Takif is, Rabotai, as soon as someone messes with them, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't play games. This takes Yirat Shamayim, fear of the Almighty, to a new level. Why? To think, I'm supposed to have all of the Almighty because I'm afraid of punishment in Gehenom. Okay. All of the Almighty because His Majesty is all over the world. Okay. I respect Him. Okay. The King of this world, okay. Oh, I love Hashem. Okay. But to think, utakif, בעל היכולת, בעל הכוחות כולם, רבותיי, in so many words, halacha is, don't mess with Hashem. Don't mess with him. Why? He is your father, but he's also your God. And when you're not acting like a son or a daughter, he's God first. And anyone that does the opposite of what the law is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, remember, I told you I'm takif. I told you don't mess with me. Why? Because it's against your own good. I'm a king, and a king cannot simply forsake his own kinghood and his own majesty and his own name, and he can't just let you walk all over his face. Can't. Why? Or else the whole thing goes in the garbage. This, Rabotai, is a halacha to all of Am Yisrael. Doesn't matter if you're Sephardi, Ashkenazi, Litai, you're Chabad, you're a Breslev, whoever you are. You think about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, the kavanah you're supposed to have is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is takif. He's not just takif. All powers are in his hands. All strengths are in his hands. But not just the strengths and the powers that will give you the salvation that you want. Rather, the strengths to hurt a person, to destroy a person, in ways that he cannot even imagine. It's important to have that. Because when a person knows that every action you're going to do, every time you steal money, every time you are about to commit adultery, every time you're about to cheat, lie, deceive in any way, shape, or form, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not let go of anything. Doesn't let go. Anyone that says HaKadosh Baruch Hu lets go gets an additional punishment. This is an important thing to understand. Why? Because once you know this type of understanding about Hashem, all of a sudden, the desire to sin is lowered drastically. It's lowered drastically. Why? Who wants to mess with Hashem? One of the places that people have a hard time following the laws of Hashem is when it comes to business and it comes to laws. Specific laws. Everyone loves laws as long as the laws are favorable to them. Everyone loves the laws that comply with their life. You like that there's a stop sign on your street because you have children and you want your kids to be safe. You love that there is police driving in your neighborhood because you know that if there is a thief or something, a murderer or a rapist that is thinking about going somewhere, he's not going to go in a place where there's police constantly present over there. You like the law that, in essence, obligates the police force to go in your neighborhood. If you have a law that allows your business to make money in ways that other people can't because it protects your patent, your creation, you love that law. You love that law. So it's not so pashut. It's not so simple to just say, I love the law. Loving the law when it comes to Torah means you love the law even if it disagrees with your agenda, your logic even, and perhaps even your bottom line profit. The Chazon Ish continues here in chapter 3, section number 13, saying the following: מן הקניינים העיקריים להשתלם באהבת המשפט הוא הלימוד בגפת והלכות בכלל. ובהלכות שבין אדם לחברו בפרט. One of the main ways to perfect one's love of justice is to learn Gemara, Rashi, and Tosfot. That's Gafat. Gafat is the acronym for Gemara, Pirush, which is Rashi, and then Tosfot. Regarding the halachot, so to learn the Gemara, the Rashi, and the Tosfot regarding the halachot in general, and the halachot, the laws, pertaining to the laws between man and man in particular. So here, the Chazon Ish is telling us, already last week, we have to learn to love the law, to love justice. Just like it says in a book of Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, in chapter 61, verse number 8. Ki ani Adonai ohev mishpat soneh gezel ba'olah. For I am HaShem, who loves justice and hates a burnt offering bought with robbery. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells us through the prophet, I, HaShem, I love justice. And I hate when somebody's donating money with stolen money. Don't come to me, tell me you are a big Baal Chesed, you are a righteous person, and you're going to bring me some sacrifice to the Bet HaMikdash, some donation for the sake of Torah with a bunch of disgusting money. Why is it disgusting? It has blood all over it. Whose blood? The person you murdered for it. The person you stole from it. Don't give me that money. I can't be a lover in justice if I don't hate injustice. You can't say you love the truth and the lie the same. Not possible. Either you love the truth and hate the lie, or you love the lie. There is no such thing as loving both. So for a person to get his mind, to get her mind to that wavelength, they have to learn the teachings of the sages. If it's a man, he has to get himself to a point where he's not just learning just lectures, although the lectures are very good and a constant fuel for many neshamot. Nonetheless, at some point you have to start upgrading. Start learning the weekly parasha. And after you've done that for a while, start learning Gemara. Why? Because the Gemara will rewire your brain. You don't learn the actual halacha from the Gemara. You learn how to think like a Jew. Hence the reason why non-Jews are not allowed to learn Gemara. Why? Because they're not supposed to think like Jews. They're supposed to think like non-Jews. And for them, they need to learn the things that pertain to them, which is the moral teachings that we have in the Torah, which is MUSSAR, and also the teachings in the Tanakh. But unfortunately, Maim gnuvim imtaku, stolen water are sweeter, as Shlomo HaMelech says, and many people that are not allowed or are not recommended for them to learn these specific things, they want to learn it, and the ones that are obligated to learn it don't want to learn it. That's just the way of the nature of the world. All the time you'll hear, oh yeah, I have a girlfriend, she's really religious. Oh yeah, what makes her so religious? She's so modest and everything? Well, modesty, she's okay. Maybe she's not up to your standards, Rabbi, as if I made up the standards. Okay, then what makes her so religious? Oh, she learns Gemara every day with her Rabbanit. I said, that doesn't make her religious. That makes her a problem. Why? Because she's not learning enough about her own obligations, but rather she wants to learn about things that are not an obligation for her. And therefore, she is forbidden from doing such a thing. Is it outright forbidden for a woman to learn Gemara? No, it's not outright forbidden for a woman to learn Gemara if she has perfected the laws that she's responsible for, which is very rare. Very rare. Nonetheless, if a woman spends her time learning all the things that she needs to learn, she won't have time to learn Gemara. But a man, on the other hand, has to learn Gemara, not because it's going to teach him the law, but rather it's going to teach him how we arrive at the law and how the sages considered every single aspect before they told you what the bottom line is. They didn't just shoot off the cuff and decide this is the law, like the Christians and the missionaries try to tell people, oh, look over here, it says this, and they mistranslate and misinterpret everything, and they try to, in essence, make the oral Torah look ugly in the eyes of Jewish people, because if the oral Torah is true, which it is, that means that their entire religion is idol worship garbage. So that's why their number one tactic of all missionaries, all Christian people, all Messianic Jews, obligation number one is to make the oral Torah look ugly in the Jewish people's eyes. That's the main objective. Same thing with Sadducees and Karaites and other forms of heretics. Try to make the oral Torah ugly. But that's the reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu says you have to fight for this Torah, because you have to learn how to think like a Jew. You have to learn how like a Jew, and you have to learn not just the Gemara, you have to learn the commentaries, the Rashi. Rashi is the basic foundation of all commentary on the Gemara and also on the written Torah. And also Tosfot. At some point, you have to get to a point of learning Tosfot also. Why? Because Tosfot elaborates even further. Now, generally speaking, when a person first starts learning Gemara, he doesn't learn Tosfot. He learns just Rashi. You go to the Shas at least once, if not more, with just Rashi. And then you learn other commentators, the Tosfot and others. Why? Because if you do everybody at once, you're never going to get through it. You're never going to get an idea. It's going to take you 1,000,000 years to finish. You have to go to the material. You have to go to the material and then little by little add more and more to it. Many times people take on too many things and they end up completing nothing. 15 years he's learning, he's still on Masechet Brachot. Still on one tractate. I have students, Baruch Hashem, already finished half the Shas. In one case, I have one guy, BeEzrat Hashem, he's going to finish the Shas this year in the next couple of months. This guy is serious about everything. He is learning everything he possibly can every waking hour, and he's going to complete the Shas. Why? Because he's following what the instructions are. He's not playing any games. But nonetheless, many times, you have some people that they want to be bigger than the sages, bigger than everybody else. They want to swallow up the whole Torah in one day. Doesn't work that way. So you have to take things in steps. You have to have guidance from some Talmid Chacham that knows what he's doing, or at least someone that knows how to teach, and nonetheless, follow this regiment. Also, the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says it's a mistake for people to learn 2 tractates of Gemara at the same time. Why? Someone came to Rabbi HaKadosh, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, and asked him a question. And one of the other sages said to him, "What are you doing? How could you be asking the Rebbe a question about this tractate when you see him learning a different tractate?" The Rebbe doesn't learn 2 tractates at once. If Rabbi HaKadosh, the one that wrote the Mishnah, the foundation of our Gemara is the Mishnah, he didn't learn 2 tractates at the same time. You, little puny guy, want to learn 2 tractates at the same time? And sometimes people have such a big ego. When you tell them, listen, I asked you what you study. You told me you're studying 3 different tractates. Rabbi HaKadosh didn't study more than 1 at a time. Why don't you change? You know what? I'll think about it. They can't take any type of constructive criticism. They want the whole Torah on a silver platter. They want to be the Stipler Gaon in one day. People like that, generally speaking, never make it. Not only they don't make it to becoming Talmid Chacham, they never make it to even where they think they can make it. They never make it to even bottom line. Why? Because they fail. They see that what they try to get to is unattainable and they break. So you have to have guidance. You have to have a Talmid Chacham guide you, tell you what to do and how to do it, and you have to be very, very careful. But nonetheless, learning Rashi, learning Tosfot has to be on the to-do list of every single Jew. For the guys, for the women, you have to learn all of the halachot that pertain to you, which is the halachot of tzniut, halachot Shabbat, all of the halachot for the holidays. And of course, MUSSAR is obligation for everyone, but we'll get to that in a moment. And he says that a person has to take this as his priority in life. It's more important than your pharmaceutical job. It's more important than your stock market job. It's more important than anything else. But especially the halachot, the laws pertaining to dealing with people, man and man. You have to learn how to deal with people. Why? Because it's most simple. It's the most simple to violate those laws. Because if I tell you, keep Shabbat or else you're considered an idol worshiper, you know that this is a law between you and God. And if you want to be on God's good side because you want him to keep you alive, you want him to give you money, you want him to give you good health, you want him to give you a wife or a husband, so you're going to keep Shabbat. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. Even protecting your BEIT or being modest, it's a law between you and God. So you say, oh, listen, I want to be on God's good side, and therefore I'm going to keep these laws. But if I tell you, listen, you know that that business you have, it's not kosher. You have to change the whole business. If not, completely change business. Either change the whole business, restructure it, or change business altogether. Because sometimes I tell somebody, listen, you know, the way you're making money, it's illegal according to the Torah. Illegal. Well, listen, Rabbi, any other way I'd lose money. I said, okay, so change business. Come on, is there another way? I said, yeah, change business. No, another way. I said, oh, change the business. Either change business or change the business. So if changing the business means it's not going to be profitable, that means you have to change the business. Pick whichever one you want. Either lose money or change a job and, make money some other way. I'm going to find another rabbi to give me something else, second opinion. Okay, good luck to you. Good luck to you. And you see the person is still in the business 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, 4 years later, and still has the same curse on his life, makes a ton of money with no blessing, still has problems with the wife, problems with the this, problems with that, tons of money, no blessing. I met a lot of people like that. They make a lot of money but have no blessing in their life. Why? Non-kosher business. Where sometimes you'll have something that is allowed halachically, where you'll find a leniency to make it allowed, but still you will not have any blessing on it, even if it's allowed. Why? Because just because something is allowed does not mean that you should do it. I had somebody ask a question, I've had this question many times, where they say, listen, I have a job that from a church. They're asking me to paint the church, or they're asking me to do the parking lot for the church, or they're asking me to do the advertising for the church. They're asking me to do something for the church. Can I do it? Can you find a leniency in halacha to do something, to hire somebody to do it, or to do it, but it's outside? All types of leniencies in different intricate cases. Yes, you can find a leniency. You can. Meaning, you can find a way that it's permitted to do it. Should you do it? That's a different question. And the answer to that is no. Why? You will never have bracha on that money. You will never have blessing on that money. Never. It will never be. That money will always be cursed. Why? You helped idolatry. You helped a source of tumah in the world reproduce itself in the world, grow in the world. For sure, it's not going to be blessed money. So you'll see, you can make a ton of money, and then it's gone, either for bills, or for lawsuits, or for medical issues, all types of issues. But in the beginning, the Satan makes you feel like you're winning. Why? He gives you. The church has a lot of money. Hey, we're going to give you $1 million for this parking lot. Your average guy is going to pay you $200,000. He wants to pay you $1 million. He's like, sure, what a great client this guy is. Yeah, Hashem is sending me blessings. He thinks Hashem is sending him blessings. In reality, it's a curse from the Satan. But he falls for it because he doesn't ask the rabbi. He only asks his financial advisor. He only asks his wife that wants another house. He only asks his emotions. You ask your emotions, you're bound to fail. This, Rabotai, is important. Why a person has to have a rabbi that he's going to ask everything. And that's one of the things the Chazon Ish is going to get to in a moment. And now he quotes Rabbi Yisrael Misalant. So now that a person needs to know that he needs to love the justice by learning Gemara, Rashi, Tosfot, regarding the halachot in general and halachot pertaining to the laws between men and men in particular. As Rabbi Yisrael Misalant said, what especially deepens and entrenches the knowledge is the labor and in-depth study of the Gemara, Rashi, and Tosfot. Where even if a person does not become an expert that's well versed in all of the halachot, one still acquires both the principle of subjugating himself to the laws and the recognition that the halacha is the basis of servitude of Hashem, and knows that it is necessary to ask a rabbi in regards to anything connected with one's daily life interactions with other human beings. So here Rabbi Yisrael Misalant gives us an extraordinary insight of the benefits of learning the laws themselves, but studying them to the point where you're toiling, you're breaking your head, you're trying hard, you're pushing yourself to study more than what you originally expected of yourself and even more than what you think you can do. You're studying early in the morning, you're studying late at night, you're studying in between interviews, in between different things. Instead of wasting your time, you're studying. Why? Because that toil, that effort is going to give you three major things. Three major critical things Rabbi Yisrael Misalant says. First and foremost, it's going to acquire you the principle that you have to subjugate yourself to the law. This perhaps is one of the most rare rare attributes in the world today. Why? Because of people's emotions. Many times you have people making their decisions in life based on their emotions. And what ends up happening is that your emotions tend to steer you the wrong way. And if a person does not learn how to subjugate himself to the halacha and simply do what the halacha says, even if it doesn't agree with your emotions, you're bound to fail. You're bound to fail in such a miserable way that you could end up in Gehenom. The Gemara in Masechet Bava Metzia, page 59a, says that after the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, the gates of prayer were closed, but the gates of tears remained unlocked. So comes the Rebbe Mikotsk, and he asks the question, if the gates of tears are not closed, they're unlocked, they're not completely open, but they're unlocked, meaning you want to go in, you can get in. What's the point of having the door? If anyone that wants to get in can get in, what's the point of having the door? It's a good question. Comes the Rebbe Mikotsk and gives us an answer. And the Rebbe Mikotsk, B'chokhmato Agdola, says, in his huge wisdom, says to us, sometimes that gate of tears wants to tell you that I don't want your tears. That's why I'm closed. I'm unlocked for the good tears, the ones that are really crying for legitimate reasons. She's crying because our kid is off the derech. She's crying because our husband doesn't want to learn Torah. She's crying because she wants to get higher in regards to Kedusha, in regards to Yirat Shamayim. She's crying to Hashem. He's crying to Hashem because he wants to understand the Tosfot. He wants to learn Gemara like a normal human being without falling asleep every 2 minutes. He's crying to Hashem. He's crying to Hashem because he wants to be able to say a Dvar Torah without stuttering 15 times. He wants to say it. He cries to Hashem. For those people, the Gemara says, it's unlocked. You cry. We're going to let those tears in. But sometimes there's crocodile tears, the Rebbe Mikotsk says. Sometimes there's fake tears. Sometimes there's tears of a wicked person that knows how to take advantage of people. Where she comes to the rabbi that's unlearned in halacha. She comes to the rabbi that's very learned in socializing with people. He's learned in communicating with people. He's learned in making people smile and happy. And she starts crying, Rabbi, my husband won't do this for me. My husband won't do this for me. I want this and I want that. And in reality, the truth is, she has her eyes on some other guy. In reality, she just wants him to give her the money so she can go away and do whatever she wants. But she can't tell the rabbi this. She knows the guy's not a complete apikolos. He can't give her say, listen, you have to give the get because your wife, wants to go with another guy. Can't get a get for such a reason. If a woman says, listen, I want to go with another guy, that's why I want the get, can't give her a get. Yeah, what do you mean? But she doesn't want to be with them. Doesn't want to be with them. That's her problem. That's her problem. She can stay without a get and aguna for 500 years. Why? Punishment for being such a person. Such a wayward person. You are married to somebody, you stay married to that person. Why? Because you want to be with another guy, therefore you should get a get? No, that's not the way Judaism works. But that's going to come all the feminists. They're going to say, no, she has the right. She should be let alone. What is this, a prison? She doesn't have to stay married to him. And they're going to go to the rabbis who don't know anything. And they're going to start crying to him, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. And get them on video saying, yeah, that's not right. You have all these agunot. It's not right that they're trapping these poor women. And it's not fair. They don't know the real truth. They don't know that sometimes these women are wicked. Not all the time. Sometimes the guys are terrible. Sometimes the guys are cheaters, liars, garbage of the world. But not all the time. But if a rabbi doesn't know the halacha, but he knows how to socialize instead, he knows how to socialize, he knows how to be friends with the girls, what is he going to do? Instead of listening to the halacha, he's going to listen to the tears. He's going to listen to the tears, the crocodile tears. And he's going to say, you're right, lady. You're right. He should let you go. He's a bad guy. If he's not treating you right, he's a bad guy. He should let you go. And da-da-da-da-da. And then he's going to make a public statement about it, of how he should let her go. Rabotai Karim, that's a nightmare in Judaism. Why nightmare? It's a distortion of halacha, and that's what ends up happening. Those crocodile tears, the Rebbe Mikotsk says, the gates of heaven are closed for it. They're unlocked for the righteous people that are crying, for the righteous reasons. But for those crocodile tears, you could only fool the people in this world. You can't fool HaShem. Those crocodile tears will not be answered. And there's a reason why that same page in Gemara Masechet Bava Metzia, right after it, says, Kol ha'olech be'etzat ishto sofo olech legenom. Anyone who goes in the suggestions or ideas of his wife, in the end will go to Gehenom. So now the missionaries and the Messianic Jews and the haters of the oral Torah are going to have a field day with this verse. Say, look, see, the woman is nothing. The feminists are going to say, look, the saviors hate women. No, not at all. Opposite. You just don't understand what's being said and what we're going to explain. To listen to a woman that only uses her emotion is going to lead you to Gehenom, for sure. Why? Women are emotional, much more than men typically, with the exception a little bit of some men in this generation. Women are generally very emotional, very hormonal, and if you're going to listen to her every time her hormones kick up, every time she has an emotional decision, she's going to tell you, no, stay with me, never go to Shiur Torah, never learn, never do anything. Guess what? You and her are going to go to Gehenom. Simple. If your woman, if your wife is a tzadikah, she pushes you to go learn Torah, she pushes you to go do mitzvot, of course listen to her. That's Ezer Kenegdo, that's the best woman in the world, it's going to help you. But if you're going to listen to the type of woman that's being talked about here, that cries crocodile tears because she's emotional. She wants you to feel bad for the baby. Why she wants you to feel bad for the baby? The baby's fine. He eats, he drinks, everything is good. Yeah, but it's uncomfortable for him that you're in the room when I'm changing his diaper. What? He's 3 months old. What feels uncomfortable that I'm in the room when he's changing a diaper? There's women like this. Yeah, I think you're traumatizing him. I'm his father. How could I be traumatizing my own son? I don't know. I just feel it. I'm the mother, I know. That woman, you're probably not going to go to the Gehenom because of such a woman. Because that's what the Gemara also says. Women that are like this, you have a very serious problem in this life. Probably is going to remove all the punishment you can have in Gehenom. Rabotai Karim. Sometimes these women go to a Bet Din and pretend like they are a victim. And if the rabbi does not know how to follow halacha the right way, he will fall for the trap of the crocodile tears, and he'll even go on video supporting such women. Saying, look, we should protect these aguna. She's aguna for 30 years. Yeah, but you realize she cheated on her husband. You realize she just wanted to go with other guys. You realize she herself does not follow halacha. No, you're misunderstanding it. You have to understand the women. Rabotai Karim, crocodile tears are not welcome in heaven. But who's going to know that? The rabbi that knows halacha to the extent where he loves it. He loves the law. So sometimes the dayan will look like he is heartless. Why? Because you're going to see some girl crying. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. He's going to see some guy crying. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. About the business and how he took advantage of him and how this and how that. But in reality, he knows the law is the law. That's it. Cry, no cry. Cry somewhere else. That's the law. Why? That's what the Torah says. And that is a very, very important principle in our Torah. And that's what Rabbi Yisrael Misalan says. when you understand that you have to subjugate yourself to the law, you have to put your head down to the law and completely disregard these emotions of crocodile tears, these fake emotions that are trying to, in so many words, make you a shutaf, a partner in the crime. Why? She wants to touch your emotions. You have to know, I have to put my head down and listen to what the law says, not listen to her tears, not listen to his tears. Sometimes you're going to have a guy, big donor in a community, big donor, comes to the rabbi, Rabbi, listen, you know Steve, my partner? Yeah, he's a good guy. Well, let's not say that, Rabbi. What do you mean? You guys just donated $100,000 for Yom Kippur just a month, 2 months ago. What happened? Something happened between you guys? Yeah, Rabbi, I heard he's stealing from me. Wow, I didn't know that about Steve. And automatically the rabbi believes them. Believes that Steve's a thief. First of all, he believes in Lashon Hara from a criminal. Why? Because he said Lashon Hara about somebody else. That's it. Automatically he believes him. Automatically he sides with him. Why? Because he's a donor. And he completely disregards the other guy. Why? Emotions. Very, very important, Rabotai. Very important that a person know if you're going to judge, if you're going to be in the middle of marital issues, if you're going to be in the middle of financial issues, if you're going to be anywhere, you have to know the law. And you have to put your head down and understand, with or without emotions, I have to follow the halacha. If I don't follow the halacha, I'm no different than civil law, and in fact, I'm probably even worse. Because that's the stronghold of our Torah. That's the strong of our Torah where we know it's emet. We know it's emet. But unfortunately, many times people fall for this trap when it comes to money. Rabbi Ephraim brought a chidush where he says, although in the Gemara Masechet Megillah, it says different reasons of why different prayers in our Amida prayer, Tfilat Shmona Esrei, there's a reason for each one of them. But you could also have a understanding from the reason why there's a few of them that are one after another. Where there is a section where you're doing either the winter or the summer prayer, where it says, Barchenu Hashem, Barchenu Hashem Elokeinu, or Barech Aleinu Hashem. Bless us Hashem this year, or our handiwork. This specific prayer that's for summer or for winter, this is the prayer for sustenance, for parnasa. Important to have kavana during this prayer. People always ask for sgulot and different tricks. You have it every day. Number one, sgula for parnasa tova is do birkat hamazon with kavana every day. Number two, when you get to this prayer, have kavana. Have kavana. Have a lot of full focus. But don't just have kavanah only on this one, which is number 7 in the Tfilat Shmona Esrei. Have focus on all of them, especially the first 3. The first 3, the Mishnah Berurah says, if you don't have kavanah in the first 3, start over. It's as if you don't have kavanah on the whole thing. So you have to have kavanah. Point being is, you get to this one, where it talks about the summer prayer or the winter prayer. Right now we're obviously in the summer prayer. Have kavanah. This is for sustenance. This is to make good living, to have blessing in your money, regardless of whether your income is going to go up or down, to at least have the ability to use the money that Hashem gives you to get everything that you need. People always ask for more money. More money is not necessarily always the answer. More blessing is always the answer. You don't necessarily always need more money to have blessing. I know a lot of people that had a lot of money and zero blessing. And a lot of people that have less money, but all the blessing in the world. It's all about having blessing, having bracha in the money. So here's one of the places where you can pray for it. After that prayer, there's the Tkaba Shofar. The very next one, Tkaba Shofar. Blow the horn, the shofar. What's the shofar? Mashiach. Mashiach is going to come. Blow the shofar, bring the salvation. Everybody likes to say Mashiach, Mashiach, Mashiach. Mashiach now, all these different sayings that people say. We say it in our prayer 3 times a day in Amidah. Right after asking for good parnasah, we say, Hashem, bring Mashiach. Right? And after that, it says, Ashiva shoftenu kabarishona. Restore our judges as in the beginning. Meaning, Have good judges, good dayanim at the Bet Din that are righteous. Comes Rav Ephraim, Shichyeh, my dear Rav, and says to us, why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell us, pray for Parnassah, pray for Mashiach, and then pray for righteous judges? Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows we're praying for Parnassah, meaning we want to have a lot of money. We also have Mashiach. So when Mashiach comes, we're going to have a lot of money. And what's going to happen? Everybody's going to be a lot of us. It's going to be a lot of money. Everyone's going to start fighting. All this money, Mashiach now, Mashiach's here. I want to have the money. I want to buy the Aliyah. I want to buy this. I want to live in Yerushalayim, right next to the Mashiach's house. Everybody wants to, it's going to fight over the money. He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when they fight, at least give us good judges that are not going to fall for the trap of money, are not going to fall for the emotions of people. They're going to tell us what the halacha is. The real judges. Not like, unfortunately, some judges in the world today, they fall for emotions. They fall for the ratings. And that's unfortunately what happens in the world today, where I myself was at a Bet Din one time, and we had a din with some guy that was a landlord. And I paid him on time, and I did everything I needed to do. And one day, I decided, actually right off the bat, I'm going to invest in his house to fix a bunch of things that he left broken. So I fixed it. He did not pay me back. So we went to the Bet Din. So you would think, listen, I fixed his house. He's going to give me the money. I didn't fix the house for my health. I fixed the house because it was not simple to have it like this way. Doors broken, people could break in, and all types of things like this. Basic minimum stuff. He doesn't want to pay. We go to a Bet Din. This corrupt Bet Din tells me, listen, you're smarter than him. I said, excuse me? What difference does it make I'm smarter or not smarter? Yeah, listen, we're just gonna, he's not gonna pay you back. Why not? Well, you're smarter than him. You'll find another way to make the money. That was the Bet Din's conclusion. 3 hours of my life. They even took a fee for it, and they concluded that because they decided that I'm smarter than him, I think he's smarter than me and them because he's the one that got off free and clear. But nonetheless, that was their conclusion. Save us from such judges. Save us from such judges. When I told this to my Rav, he says, Yaron, please, forgive them, forgive him, forgive everybody, because if you don't, they're all going to have to come back in a reincarnation, and you're going to have to also, and you're going to have to be the judge to do it to them. So don't do it. Just forgive them already. But that's the reality. Today, Rabotai Yekirim, people judge with emotions. Emotions. 100% emotions. Why? That's just the way the world is. Not all judges, of course. There's many dayanim that I know. Fantastic people, tzaddikim gmurim. But you have to remember, if you're going to go and ask a rabbi or anybody to judge for you, to be in the middle of for you, it cannot be somebody that's biased on either side because of some emotional connection. Why? If there's a bias, for sure it's going to be a corrupt judgment. Now, acquiring this principle of subjugating yourself to the law is an extraordinary purchase in this life, because once a person knows that they have to put their head down to the law of the Torah no matter what it says, automatically that gives the person yirat shamayim, the fear of the Almighty. What is really the fear of the Almighty? What is the fear of heaven? The fear of heaven in simple terms is this. You're about to do something, whatever it is, business, intimacy, whatever it is, food. But before you do it, am I allowed to do it or not? Before you, not after you do it. Before you do anything in your life, am I allowed to do it or not? What does HaShem think about what I'm about to do? What does HaShem think about what I want to do? That's yirat shamayim. That is fear of the Almighty. That question, that second before you do something, that's yirat shamayim. If you don't find yourself asking ever, then you should be able to understand, hopefully, that yirat shamayim and you are not such good friends. We have to work on that. Asking whether something is allowed or not allowed before you do it, that's yirat shamayim. That's where you want to be. That's where you want to be, Rabotai. and the subjugating yourself to the law, the higher level of Yirat Shamayim is that regardless of what the answer is, you're going to do it. Meaning that once you find out that you're not allowed to do it, or that you have to do it, and it's not really what you wanted to do, you're going to do it anyway. You're going to do it anyway. In the old days, Rabotai, and even today, some of the big Rabbanim would give somebody a smicha without giving them a test. Because really, for all intents and purposes, the whole test of giving a rabbinical smicha was not really based on a test. This is a new thing, new invention, quite frankly, over the last few generations. The way that you were given a smicha was based on whether you had knowledge of the subject at hand, and even more importantly, whether you had Yirat Shamayim. Whether you had Yirat Shamayim. The book, which is an extraordinary story, life story of Rabbi Zilber, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilber, known as To Remain a Jew. He says that he got a smicha from one of the Gdolei Ador. How? He went, he met him, got a blessing, and he was about to leave. Oh, hold on a second. Took a paper, here's a smicha. You're officially a rabbi. Why? Why? You didn't pass a test. You didn't do nothing. No. You did everything. Why? I know you have understanding of the knowledge, but even more so, that you have Yirat Shamayim, that you have fear of the Almighty, that you will ask a rabbi in case you don't know the answer. If you don't know the answer, you have enough Yirat Shamayim, you have enough fear of the Almighty, that you're not just going to shoot from the hip and hopefully you're right. If you're one of those people that answers all the time without double checking, you have no Yirat Shamayim whatsoever. If I know that you're going to ask, and you are more than happy to ask, and in fact, you will not answer unless you know the answer, you have Yirat Shamayim. You get a smicha. And I've seen it with my own eyes. How? Rabbanim that have Yirat Shamayim are a world apart from people that don't have Yirat Shamayim. And even if both of them have a smicha, you'll see that one of them has a smicha, a rabbinical smicha, with no Yirat Shamayim, and one of them has a smicha with Yirat Shamayim. And you'll see that in both cases, the students they have, the people they lead, the influence they have has a world of difference. The one with no Yirat Shamayim has a whole class of heretics that remain heretics and grow and become more heretics. Whereas the one that has Yirat Shamayim grows an entire group, community of tzaddikim. Why? Your students are going to replicate you. Your students are a reflection of you. That's just a reality. And that's one of the things that the big Talmidei Chachamim, the big Rabbanim that are able to give a smicha, they know. But sometimes you'll have some people say, listen, I'm a rabbi, I'll just give a smicha to all my friends. This is also a destruction of justice because they're, again, working off of their emotions. They figure, listen, their buddy needs a smicha because maybe he'll get a job, maybe he'll be more respected, and so on and so forth. And they give him a smicha just because he's their buddy. They don't know if he has Yirat Shamayim or he doesn't, or they don't really care because they themselves don't. And then you have a destruction of justice. So subjugating yourself to the law is a multifaceted principle that applies to the rabbinical world, to the average Jew, and even to the Noahide, where a Noahide that wants to be a righteous Noahide wants to serve Hashem, wants to learn Torah, wants to do all of the good things, but one day finds out that he or she is not allowed to observe Shabbat like a Jew. If the Noahide wants to really do what God says, they will immediately accept this psak halacha from the rabbis, from the Rambam, among many others, and not observe Shabbat like a Jew, because he's not a Jew, she's not a Jew. They may decide to not work that day because they feel like having a day off. They may decide to have a nice barbecue meal. They may decide to do a lot of things, but they're not going to observe Shabbat like a Jew because they don't want to become a Jew. They want to remain a Noahide. Or they're going to say, no, I love Shabbat. I've been observing Shabbat my whole life, unknowingly, but now that I'm already used to it, I'm going to stay doing it. A person like that is not serving HaShem. They're serving themselves. They're serving themselves, Rabotai, and they're doing things because it fits their agenda. Because they're not willing to subjugate themselves to the halacha. They're only willing to subjugate themselves to whatever meets their desires. And unfortunately, many times you'll see that some of those people become very problematic, so much so they start teaching the masses Torah as if they're Jewish. And this, unfortunately, is much more apparent today in the internet world, where you have people with a little bit of a beard and a kippah. Everybody looks Jewish. Everybody looks Jewish. And I've seen it many times. Some people have the masses think that they're Jewish, teach Jewish books as if they're Jewish, talk like they're Jewish, act like they're Jewish, but in reality, completely not Jewish. 2 seconds after that lecture is done, they go back to their non-Jewish world, sometimes even go to church with their wife, because their wife still believes in Yoshke. Sometimes they'll go to all types of places that Jews are not allowed to be in. And it looks like a Jew is desecrating the Torah, and they get themselves into very, very serious trouble. Why? Because they're not really willing to subjugate themselves to the law. They're just looking to use the law to fit their own agenda. This is a very, very serious problem, but nonetheless, this is for HaShem to solve. There's not much that we can do about it, but it is something that you've probably have seen, and it is probably something that you've probably heard. Now, the second thing that Rabbi Yisrael Misalan says is the recognition that the halacha is the basis of servitude of HaShem. This is one of those statements that to understand it is to understand the entire Torah. Why? Because if a person thinks that he can serve Hashem in any other way other than following halacha, that person is an epikuros. And unfortunately, today there are many people that think that. Many people that think they can serve Hashem without following halacha. They'll tell you, listen, I love Hashem my way. You love Hashem your way. You want to follow all these laws. You want to keep all these laws. You want to keep Shabbat. I don't keep Shabbat, but I love Hashem just as much as you do. And unfortunately, you'll find many people saying the same exact stupid thing and believe it 100%. Believe it 100%. Such a person, unfortunately, will get punished very severely because of their distortion of justice and their distortion of the Torah itself, no different than how the generation of Sodom and Gomorrah distorted justice. The Gemara says in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 109, that the generation of Sodom and Gomorrah have no share of the world to come. Why don't they have a share in the world to come? Says, Vanshes Dom, Raim v'chataim la'Hashem meod. That the verse in Genesis chapter 13, verse 13, says that the people of Sodom were evil and sinful towards Hashem exceedingly. There comes the Gemara and asks, what is this double statement? That they were evil and sinful towards Hashem exceedingly. So a little bit of extra emphasis here. Gemara says, Ra'im ba'olam hazeh v'chataim la'olam haba. They were evil in this world and sinful in the world to come. Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda comes and he says, Ra'im is referring to their lustrous sins. Evil. Evil has to do with wasting seed, adultery, filthy immorality. Chataim means that they were sinful with their money. They were evil with their bodies and sinful with their money. That's how they did it. Now, were they all just gangsters in the middle of the street shooting people in the face, say, give me everything you got? Nope. They were sophisticated, elaborate, good-looking people going, smiling at you, even if they're going to murder you 20 minutes later. In fact, they'll invite you, they'll take you, they'll do whatever you want until they got what they wanted. They would do it in such an elaborate way, in such a smiley way, you wouldn't know that you're going to die until you were already too late. And this is, Rabotai, how they manipulated the law. They manipulated their country, they manipulated their entire civilization, if you will. And these people have lost their share of the world to come. Now, how did they get to this point? The Gemara says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that these people became extraordinarily arrogant because of the extraordinary bounty, the sustenance that the Holy One, blessed is He, gave them. He gave them an enormous amount of money, so much so that even the regular stones that they had in the street yielded sapphires, and this dust on the floor was gold, meaning everybody was filthy rich. But because they did not thank the Creator and thought that since the land from which bread comes forth has dust of gold, what do we need God for? What do we need guests? What do we need all these people? Usually you would give money as tzedakah in order to get more blessing. But what do we need more blessing? I already have $10 million and another $10 million in the way. What do I need all these people? So you know what? No more people collecting tzedakah in our town. Anyone that comes to collect charity in our town, that's it. He's going to get punished severely. And if the person came to their town and somebody gave him, they would take that person and punish him, as what happened to Lot. Lot, the brother-in-law of Avraham Avinu, he had a daughter that had a good heart, and she decided to give to some poor person that came to visit. And even though Lot himself was a judge, there's nothing that he can do, because either he judges or they'll kill him too. And what was the judgment? They said, oh, you want to be generous? Even though we have a law in Sodom not to be generous, we're not allowed to be generous, it's against the law to be generous. No problem. We're going to make you very generous. They put her on a top of a roof, put honey all over her body, and released all of the bees. And that's how she died slowly in a vicious death, and that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu heard the scream. What was the scream? It was the scream of Lot's daughter, who was generous. That's how much they hated generosity. Why? Because they figured, we don't need any more blessing. We don't need more blessing. We have the blessing. We already have all the money. Dust on the floor is gold. What if somebody came and he already had money? They said they don't want any guests. Why do they have any money? Gemara says the people from Sodom would put their eyes on this person, and they would seat him next to a leaning wall, right next to this wall, and the wall would fall on top of him, kill him, and then they, like scavengers, collect all the money. Like scavengers will collect all the money. And their law allowed this. Why? Because we have a law that doesn't allow guests. This guy's a fool. He came here. Who asked him to come? Yeah, but he didn't know the law. That's his problem. If he was a smart guy, he should have learned the law before he came into our town. Yeah, but your law is unusual. Maybe it's unusual to you. It's very normal to us, according to them. That's how they manipulated the law. There were 4 judges in Sodom: Shakrai, Shakurai, Zafai, and Matzle Dina. And there's a person who struck another person's wife, and he had some woman, and as a result, she miscarried a baby. So, what do the judges do? According to the Torah, obviously, he has a very serious problem on his hand, he has to pay a fine, and so on. You don't kill him, you don't for doing such a thing, but nonetheless, it's a very serious problem, it's a sin. In Sodom and Gomorrah, and their judges, they don't like such a rule. Why? So listen, he hit her, and she lost a baby. So what's the real loss here? She lost a baby. Okay, so he owes her a baby. Okay, so now what's the law? You give him your wife, and he'll give her a new baby. And then after she has the baby, you take back the wife. That was the law of Sodom and Gomorrah. That was the filthy, disgusting law that they had in Sodom and Gomorrah. When a person hit another person and blood came out, they go to the Bet Din. Go to the judges over there. Said, what happened to you? He hit me and I ended up blood. Oh, so that's so he helped you out. Pay him 8 zuz. Pay him $8,000. Why do I have to pay him $8,000? Because he did bloodletting for you. That was a form of medical treatment in those days to lose blood. Today, obviously, we know it's not right, but in those days, they thought that bloodletting was a form of healing to remove all the toxins from the body. Oh, so he helped you lose blood. Instead of you going to the doctor, you went to him, he punched you in the face, and you're bleeding a little bit? Oh, so you owe him. That was the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah. When Eliezer, Eved Avraham, Eliezer was a servant of Avraham Avinu. He was a genius. Anytime Avraham Avinu was not able to give a shiur, Eliezer was able to do it. Eliezer came from Nimrod HaRasha. Nimrod saw that Avraham, after he threw him in the fire because he didn't want to worship his idol, and Avraham was walking around the fire and Hashem was with him. So after that, Nimrod realized that this is not a regular person, so he said to his own son, Eliezer, go with him. It's better that you are a slave to Avraham Avinu than be a king after me. Nimrod didn't want to do tshuva. He wanted to stay Rasha because he couldn't let go of all the money that he had until Esav killed him. But nonetheless, he gave Avraham Avinu a present. He gave him Eliezer. Eliezer became the servant of Avraham. He became a Talmid Chacham Tzaddik. So much so, the Gemara says he's one of 10 people that walked into heaven, walked into Gan Eden with his clothes on, alive. One of the people that never died. Walked into Gan Eden alive. So Eliezer was tzaddik, kadosh, and a genius. So now he went to Sodom one time. Didn't know these people are so crazy. And all of a sudden they jump on him and beat him up. Goes to the court. And they say, oh, listen, you, what happened? Oh, they beat me up. So I have blood. Oh, so you owe them 8 zuz. You owe them $8,000 for doing bloodletting for you. So Eliezer, because a genius, takes a stick and hits the judge. The judge says to him, what are you doing? He says, listen, now you owe me money, so just pay them the money that I owe them. That's a Jewish mind. That's a tzaddik. That's tzaddik. But the point being is, Rabotai, these judges of Sodom and Gomorrah were evil judges. They weren't outlaws in a sense that they just were like a mafia killing people without the law. They weren't outlaws. They had a law, but the law itself was corrupt. The law itself was corrupt. And what do you do when the law itself is corrupt? It's a destruction of the Torah. And that's why a person needs to know that recognition that halacha, the Jewish halacha, the Torah's halacha, is the basic foundation of servitude of Hashem. There is no such thing as serving Hashem by violating the halacha, by not listening to the halacha, by ignoring the halacha. There's no such thing. If you want to be on Hashem's good side, you have to follow the law. If you're not following the law, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is punishing you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is punishing you now and will punish you even more later on. Now, some people will misunderstand some of the teachings of the Arizal, for example. That's the reason why it's not for everybody. We say, look, the door of the flood got reincarnated. So they got another chance. That's what Manis Friedman said to some poor kid in England that has a channel on YouTube where he tells him that the generation of the flood, good things came out of it because they got another chance. But the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 108, has a Mishnah out there and specifically says the generation of Sodom and Gomorrah, the generation of the flood, have no share of the world to come. They have no share of the world to come. So how come Manis Friedman and his friends say they got reincarnated, they're in a good situation and so on? If he's even using a source, he's misunderstanding it. Most likely he's not even using the source, but we'll give you an explanation anyway, in case you ever run into this. The Arizal says that the generation of Noach that got destroyed got reincarnated as the generation of Sodom and Gomorrah. And again reincarnated as the Bnei Israel in Egypt that were slaves and died over there. Why? Why they got reincarnated several times if they're wicked? They destroyed the world at the time of Noah. They destroyed the world at the time of Sodom. They destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Again, they didn't want to follow Hashem in Egypt. Why does Hashem keep reincarnating them? Because, Rabotai Yekarim, it's a very, very critical lesson. Rabotai Yekarim, there's a pasuk in the Torah in Parashat Vayetchanan, one before last pasuk. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says he loves those that observe his mitzvot, but his haters, Meshalem el sonav el panav la'avido. He pays his haters cash to their face in order to destroy them. And the Arizal elaborates, those haters that do not keep the Torah, they keep whatever fits them, whatever suits them, whatever they feel like doing. Meaning, they're religious in their heart, but not in their actions. I love Hashem even if I violate Shabbat. I love Hashem even if I'm stealing from everyone. Those types of people that distort the law like Manis and people like him. Such people, they don't go straight to Gehinnom. No, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will sometimes reincarnate them, bring them to the world again in order to make more sins, just to give them the pleasure for the good things they've done during their life, pay them their reward in this world, and then destroy them ultimately. Meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it says, utakif, Baal HaYacholet, Baal HaKochot Kulam. He's aggressive, he's attacking. Why? If you are going to distort his Torah, his signature in the world, his baby, you're going to distort it this way, even if he has to reincarnate you and bring you to the world just to give you the reward, in order for you to never see heaven for a single minute, he will do it. Time and time again until you're paid in full in order to destroy the person. Hashem Yishma. And that's what he did. And that's why the Mishnah concludes, generation of the flood, generation of Sodom, these people have no share of the world to come. How can you say they have no share of the world to come and they're going to Gehinnom forever if they were reincarnated? Because eventually, when they finish their reincarnation, finished. No heaven. No heaven. And you can see, they came back, destroyed more. They came back, destroyed more. Each time they came back, the wicked neshamot, they were the Erev Rav, and unfortunately, they are the ones torturing us until today. Until today. What do you think? All of these Erev Rav that you have running the Israeli government and all of these reform people in America and all of these anti-Torah people all over the world. What do you think? They just came out of nowhere? No, these are the same wicked people that the Gemara in Masechet Chaygaz says were literally wicked neshamot that have existed since the beginning. And Hashem disperses them in every generation, a little bit in every generation, until they're all destroyed altogether when the Mashiach comes. But nonetheless, when a person decides to join those types of people that distort the Torah, that tell you that you don't have to follow the halacha, you don't have to listen to the sages, you could just do whatever feels good to you, those people for sure are part of the Erev Rav. Last thing in that section is that the Rabbi Yisrael Misalant says that a person that toils over Torah will know that it's necessary to ask a rabbi in regards to anything connected with one's daily interactions with other human beings. This is a critical part of having a rabbi. Critical part of having a rabbi. Many people ask a rabbi, Rabbi, am I allowed to eat this? Am I not allowed to eat this? Am I allowed to buy this? Am I not allowed to buy this? But when it comes to buying a house, selling a house, usually they won't ask a rabbi until after they moved in. Tell them buy a car, they won't ask the rabbi. Tell them before they invest in something specific, they won't ask the rabbi. Whether they should marry such a person, they won't really ask the rabbi. The biggest decisions in their life, they don't ask the rabbi. They ask their conscience, they ask their friends, they ask their parents, they ask a bunch of people that are ignorant of Torah most of the time. When do they ask the rabbi? They ask the rabbi questions that they can find out themselves, but they're too lazy to open a book. This is the opposite of what it's supposed to be. All the questions of whether you should eat something, not eat something, when does Shabbat start, when does the holiday start, all of these things you could simply open a book or go on the internet and find the answer. That's what you should be doing yourself. The big questions of whether you should work at specific jobs, get married to specific people, move to specific communities, those are the questions you're supposed to ask your rabbi. Those are the questions. Those are the questions that are the most important. But nonetheless, if a person can't tell the difference between one or the other, what should they do? Ask everything from the rabbi. They should have a rabbi, they could ask him everything. Nothing is off limits. And many times you have certain people that ask you everything, and sometimes you say to yourself, it's a little ridiculous they're asking this specific question, but nonetheless, it's better they ask even the small questions, as long as the small questions and the big questions come together. And it's not only the small questions, because if it's just small questions, then you know that this person doesn't understand what having a rabbi is for. They think a rabbi is a replacement of Google, and that's a mistake. A rabbi is there to tell you what's allowed, what's not allowed, and how to lead your life. And of course, you need to make sure that you pick the right rabbi, and not somebody that's just yesing you to death. Because if you're just getting somebody that's just yesing you to death, then you have a very serious problem. One of the Gedolei Ador in the previous generation, Rav Yaakov Edelstein, he's the brother of one of the Gedolei Ador today, Rav Gershon Edelstein, the Rosh YESHIVA of Ponovich, and also the head of the Eidah Charidit. So his brother, Rav Yaakov Edelstein, was a giant Kodesh Kodeshim, and he lived in a very secular neighborhood in Ramat Sharon, and he became the rabbi over there and did a lot of good in that neighborhood, a lot of KIRUV, helped a lot of neshamot, do tshuva, and so on. His kids didn't even know whether they were Ashkenazim or Sfaradim until they grew up, because they never heard him say a single thing about Ashkenazim or Sfaradim as being different. They didn't even know what they were themselves. That's how much holiness was in his house. His third marriage, his third wife, she was a Baal Tshuva, former actress. Of course, there were some rabbis that had an opinion about this, opinion about the Gedolei Ador going out and marrying a Baalat Tshuva that was an actress nonetheless. But he had his emet and he stuck with it and he helped countless people. And he was Kodesh Kodeshim. One time, some drunk comes into the Bet Midrash, broken bottle, pach, puts the bottle in the neck of the Rav. His Rabbi, how come your Torah says that a woman can't be a witness? Why? She's no good? Tell me right now. Rav Edelstein, without a flinch, with the glass to his neck, looks at this murderer in the face and says, because our Torah knows that if somebody like you does this to a woman and tells her she has to do something, she'll do it. Tells her she has to say something, she'll say it. But a real man doesn't care about people like you and will always tell the truth. This murderer got shock of his life, of holiness coming out of Rav Edelstein's mouth, turned around and ran away. That, Rabotai, is a test. May none of us ever get such a thing. But nonetheless, that is Kodesh. Toiling over Torah to the extent where even if your life is on the line, and you can distort the truth and you can find a leniency to do so, no chance. Why? Halacha, that's the foundation of Judaism. If I don't know it, I ask the rabbi. And if I am the rabbi, I can't change it. Can't change it. That's the halacha. Emotions, no emotions, doesn't make a difference. The perfection of the Torah, says the Chazon Ish, the perfection of a Torah scholar who labors in learning Torah, Gemara, Rashi, Tosfot, Halacha, the books of Yirat Shamayim and morals, and acquiring good character traits, is assured that his integrity will remain intact. If one has neglected halacha and has not put in the effort to learn it, there is no doubt that he is lacking in justness and is in danger of becoming an unwitting accomplice to an evil entity. Here the Chazon Ish gives us a subtle warning to each and every single one of us, that if we all just simply focus on just certain facets of the Torah and ignore the actual law itself, you're only going to learn MUSSAR, you'll become evil. You're only going to learn the Midrash, you'll become evil. You're only going to learn the different Hasidic books, you'll become evil. If you ignore the halacha, you will become evil. Why? Because you will not know how to apply Hasidut to your life. You will not know how to apply Mussar to your life. You will not know how to apply the teachings of the sages to your life. You will not know how to apply the teachings of the Torah to your life. You will not know how to do it because you don't know the halacha. You have to learn the law itself. If you don't, you will turn evil. And even if you don't think that you will turn evil because perhaps you're not that bright to come up with some grand plan, perhaps you're not that clever, perhaps you're not that, don't have such a big mind, you will become an accomplice, the Chazon Ish says. You'll become an accomplice to an evil person and thereby become a shutaf, a partner with an evil entity, as unfortunately is happening with different organizations and different people that are hosting these evil, wicked speakers and rabbis that we've highlighted in the past. Each one of them becomes an accomplice to the evil entity. And even if they don't mean it, even if they don't know it, nonetheless they will be judged for it. Why? You are obligated to learn the law. You chose not to learn the law. You were spiritually lazy. You spent more time learning how to make videos. You spent more time learning how to make money. You spent more time how to look fashionable. You spent more time developing your speaking skills instead of spending the time to learn the truth, the law itself. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished you measure for measure by making you an accomplice to an evil entity. And that, Rabotai, is a hefty, hefty punishment. Why? Because now a person can literally be sinning and not even know it. He was already sinning beforehand, but now the sin is getting even worse. Measure for measure. Measure for measure, may none of us ever fall on such trap, but unfortunately, when a person disregards the law and does not bow their heads to the law, it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen, Rabotai. And it's important that a person know that these types of tests are not a new thing. They've always been around. And a person needs to understand that what Rabbi Yisrael Misalant and Chazon Ish are teaching us is that the greatest thing that a person can do is toil over Torah. If you're only going to learn Torah when you have a nice cup of coffee, maybe a little marshmallows in it too, perhaps some tea with some peanuts in it, like they do in the Middle East, maybe a few cookies from Syria, perhaps maybe some nice dinner waiting for you but still heating up, all types of things. You're going to learn Torah, you're going to watch a shiur in comfort, put your two legs up, hanging out, chilling out, as if, yes, I'm educating myself. But as soon as things become difficult, no, Torah is off. I'm not going to learn under these conditions. When I feel better, I'll learn again. You're never going to love the Torah. If you only learn Torah when it's comfortable for you, you're never going to learn Torah. You're never going to acquire the Torah. You're never going to love the Torah. Why? Torah is acquired through difficulty. Comes Resh Lakish, Gemara Masechet Brachot, at the end, says that a person has to be willing to sacrifice his life for the sake of the Torah. Has to be willing to sacrifice his life for the sake of the Torah. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 100a, says in the name of Rabbi Tanchuma ben Chaninai, a person that starves themselves for the sake of Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will satiate him in the next world. Sometimes a person will have to forego a meal in order to finish his seder in learning. Sometimes a person will have to forgo a job and thereby not have enough money to have a meal in order to study Torah. Sometimes a person will have to make certain sacrifices in order to learn Torah. And what does the Torah say about such a person? If you do it, you'll get rewarded. You don't do it, not only you don't get rewarded, you'll never acquire the Torah, period. If you're only going to learn Torah when it's comfortable for you, you're never going to acquire the Torah for real. Never. Why? Because the Torah is bought with sacrifices. The Rishon LeZion in the previous generation, Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank, was the Gdol Ador, giant Chacham, Kodesh Kodeshim, also had a lot of respect for Rav Ovadia while he was still very young. This Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank had a lot of respect for Chachamim, but he also had a Chacham in his own household who was a giant. Who? His brother. His brother, Rav Zev Frank, was an extraordinary Chacham. Kodesh Kodeshim. Day and night, he would toil and toil in Torah without stopping. When would he stop? When he passed out. Simply, there was no more energy left in the body, and he would pass out. How long? Throughout his entire life. Needs to get up, go to the bathroom, back to learning Torah. Shower, back to learning Torah. Minimum of needs of this world, all he needs is to go, learn Torah, learn Torah, learn Torah, learn Torah. When the whole attack of the Arabs, Yimach Shimam, on Jerusalem happened, the city was closed off. So the food couldn't come into the city. Now, before that, anytime somebody was toiling in Torah, one of the Avrichim was toiling in Torah, somebody saw that this guy hasn't left his desk all day. They would go outside, get him a sandwich, get him a cookie, get something, put on his desk and leave. That's how it happens till this day. There's always some tzaddikim walking around the neighborhood, or perhaps in the kollel. They themselves are studying, or somebody else is studying, but they see there's one guy in the kollel, one tzaddik, doesn't leave his chair all day. Nothing. He's just learning. He's enamored in the Torah. He might as well be in Mount Sinai. So what do? They want to have some schuyot. They want to have some merits. They go, they know he needs to eat. He's still human. Even though he's practically an angel, he's still human. So they go, they get something from outside. They get a cookie, they get a drink, they get something, they put it on his desk, they leave. They don't make a big thing out of it. Hey, listen, here's a cookie. Nothing. They go, they leave. Like literally, like an angel. That's what tzaddikim do. People that interrupt, better off they don't do anything. So when everything was functioning okay, every day somebody would put something on his desk, he would eat. That's it, simple. But then, when the city was closed off, because of these terrorists everywhere trying to infiltrate into the city, not only was food not coming in, but people didn't come. People didn't come to the kollel. Rav Zev Frank would continue coming to the kollel every day, learning Torah, learning Torah, learning Torah, learning Torah, learning Torah. But there's no food. A month straight learning Torah, surviving off of the crumbs he can find wherever he can find. Because there's no food anywhere. There's famine. Whatever crumbs you can find from time to time, survived on that for a month. After a month of doing this, he goes and he sees his brother, Rav Tzvi Frank, the Gdol Ador, and he says, look, Baruch Hashem, I have good news. His brother sees him, sees what he looks like, doesn't even know what to say. He says, look, Baruch Hashem, I learned so much Torah. I've gained, look, I've become fat. What is this fat? For anyone who doesn't know, learn this. When a person starves, one of the things that happens as starvation gets to a very detrimental point, they start puffing up. They don't puff up because they're gaining weight. It's one of the few things that happens before HaShem Yishmor, a person dies. He was so enamored in the Torah, he did not even realize that this is what it is. He said, I learned so much Torah, I got fat over it. Because he puffed up. That's a person you want to ask a question from. That's a person you want to rely on. That's a person that has dedicated his life to the Torah, Rabotai. These are our sages. These are our Chachamim. These are the people we look up to and wish we were even the dust under their feet. This is what a person needs to know when they're learning Torah. They're learning from the books of such people. They're learning from people that sacrificed their life for the sake of the Torah. So when they say something, they're not saying it because they feel that way. When they say something, they're not saying it because they even think that way. When they say something, it's because they toiled and toiled and toiled and sacrificed their life in order to arrive at that answer. So if you follow what the Chachamim paskind, and you go up to Shamayim, and they ask you, why did you do this? You say, I did it because the Chacham said to do it. I learned it in his book. I learned it in his shiur. He said it. I did it. They go up to Shamayim. They see, that's what you did. You did it because he said it. You're good. You're good. Even if the halakha somewhere else is different. You did it because that was the da'at Torah that you listened to. That was a real chacham. You weren't spiritually lazy and just looking for whatever fit your agenda. You listened to Talmid Chacham. You're good to go. This, Rabotai, is something that a person needs to do and needs to acquire, because even if you learn halacha a lot, you won't necessarily always be fortunate enough to be a posek, someone that knows, is an expert in halacha. Rabbi Yisrael Salan says it. You won't necessarily become an expert. But at least by toiling yourself, you'll understand the magnitude of the one that is a posek, of the one that did toil, of the one that did acquire all these things. So by you toiling, you will acquire the love for the psak, for the judgment. You'll acquire the love of the sages. You'll acquire the love of the truth. You'll acquire all of this. And you also acquire the necessary fear of heaven to know that when you don't know something, or even if you think you know it, you always double check by asking a Talmid Chacham that has the required tools in order to give you an answer. BeEzrat Hashem, this will give us the strength to ask the right questions, to make the right effort, to get closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with the way He wants us to get closer to Him. And thereby elevate His name, sanctify His name higher and higher. And one day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to come to us and say, you did exactly what I want you to do. You fulfilled your obligation, you fulfilled your mission, and now here's the reward. Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shmo echad.
Seven years of lectures. Seven months of film editing. Countless hours of study by two rabbis. Information we received over 3,000 years ago. All for this moment. Tikkun Hadrid. The movie.
There's a small member in your body. It shouldn't take over your whole life. If you satiate it, you're never going to have enough.
called a sofer clamp. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go.
Time for us to rectify what we have done.
Normal numbers should be somewhere around 20 million or higher.
You're never going to have control of it. If you start it, and only feed it when it's permissible according to the Torah.
Pornography is as addictive as crack cocaine.
You're always going to be happy, including this world and the next. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen.